Venus Friday. So let's talk about what's going on with our divine feminine planet, Venus, but also our divine feminine energy and expression over this week. So I can't believe it's already like Friday again. It feels like this week has gone particularly fast, which feels like Sun moving into Gemini fast. And then Venus moved into Gemini yesterday. And so our divine feminine expression is now in that archetypal energy of Gemini, which is quick thinking, curious, it wants to explore, wants to experience everything, but has that trickster kind of playful, mischievous energy, not in any kind of a malicious way, but just in like wants to help get us out of our boxes. So it's nice to kind of start into this week with Venus Fridays of feeling into that Gemini energy of our divine feminine that just wants to learn and know things and is curious and wants to explore the world, that childlike wonder. And things start moving quickly, right? Where I live, things start ramping up. We're moving back towards tourist season, coming towards the end of the off season, and everything is starting to happen quickly, as well as we have that very like mercurial spring weather where it like snowed all day yesterday, and then like soon it's going to be in the 70s, and then it'll be cold again at night. Like it got down to like 24 degrees at my house last night, and then it's going to be all warm and sunny today. So it's just that wave that Gemini loves to live within of all the things, right? So I'm going to share my screen like I usually do, and we're going to look at the stellarium.org software, my favorite, as you know, if you've been following me. Okay, and here we are, right? So here we can see the sun is in Gemini. This is on today, Friday the 24th. And we have the sun is in Gemini. Here's Venus, who just moved into Gemini and aligned with the Pleiades, right? Here's the seven sisters, that very divine feminine collection of stars in the bull constellation. It's part of the boundaries of the sacred hoop from the Lakota Dakota people, where they said we incarnate through, but many cultures say we like incarnate through this spot here. I'm going to move it over. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see. Here's Orion's belt, and his hand reaches up to the ecliptic, the path of the sun here, and that is the edge of our galaxy. So this is just part of that sacred hoop, this area where many indigenous cultures say we came in through, incarnated through. So it's just kind of interesting, just as an additional little tidbit there. So Venus, our divine feminine planet, right now is aligned with this collection of stars that has been so associated with the divine feminine. So just adding more of that energy and that empowerment to that our divine feminine expression right now, right? And this Gemini energy. So the Pleiades is right at that place where Gemini begins in our current lifetime. You can see Jupiter is close by as well. Okay, so tomorrow, Venus is going to come into a, is it a trine? I wrote it down as a trine. Yeah, a trine. Okay, sorry. All of a sudden I was like, wait, I got all my things confused there for a second. Sorry about that. Venus is going to come into a trine that, flowing kind of energy with Pluto, which is interesting because Pluto's been a really important part of this whole Venus cycle. So anytime Venus is coming into some kind of a relationship with Pluto, I just think about that, right? Where Pluto is that transformation, that composting, that underworld energy. So while we have Venus in Gemini and it's of the mind and the mental realm and air and consciousness, on Saturday, when she makes that trine with Pluto, it could be a little bit more of a feeling kind of an experience around the feminine, right? Because we're still really trying to bring the feminine back into her power and bring more balance into the masculine and the feminine in our world. So whenever, the feminine touches in with Pluto, an underworld planet, there can be some of that energy underneath the surface, right? The watery surface inside the cave of Pluto that is just asking for to feel our feelings and go with the transformation and the composting that Pluto's always trying to help us through, right? That transformation through the cocoon into the butterfly, back into that place of the divine feminine, the goddess energy being in its rightful place in the world. Also, tomorrow, Saturday, Jupiter moves into Gemini as well, right? So Jupiter's been in Taurus for the past year and now is moving into Gemini. And so this is a big thing that's happening, right? So here we are, Jupiter, our biggest planet, gaseous planet that whatever it touches, it just makes bigger, which can feel good or not feel good, depending upon what it's touching, is coming into Gemini. It's going to spend a year expanding that Gemini energy, right? So it is just a lot of Geminis happening right now, right? So we see this Jupiter place just bringing more oomph and energy into Gemini for this coming year for us. And what will that bring? And what will we see with that? Jupiter in Taurus has been that expansion through that embodied sign of trying to ground, get into our body, enjoy what feels good in the body. And now that expansion's moving into the mind and consciousness and awareness, right? So these things can always go in a couple of different directions, right? They have a positive expression and then a negative expression, right? And so Jupiter in its positive expression in Gemini is more consciousness, more awareness, more understanding, seeing the bigger picture kind of a thing. It can also, on its more negative side, be just getting us so into our heads more, right? Just so into like thinking, kind of cutting things off at the throat, just not being in the body, which is obviously such an important piece of what we need going forward so that we are taking better care of ourselves, each other, dealing with our stuff, all of that. So it's just an interesting thing. We'll see how that all plays out. And then on Monday, the moon comes into a trine with Venus. So I'm going to span out. And we're going to see here's the ground, the green, and we'll span out a little bit more. So kind of here is the chart on, let's move it forward to Monday, which is the 27th. You can see the date time down here. Here's the ground. Here's the rising sign right now at 10:22 in, well, I guess almost 10:23. I'm going to stop the time in Colorado, where I am on the 27th, right? This is the rising sign. You can see the crab coming through there and the setting, the descendant. Here's the midheaven, right? Mars here has just culminated, just moved past the midheaven. But let's span out a little bit more. I'm going to turn the ground off and we'll see the moon over here. So the moon is in this trine with Venus, right? So a trine is once we move like a third of the way around the circle of the ecliptic, the circle of the signs of the charts, right? So on Memorial Day in the United States. So this is something, the moon activating Venus is something I'm still figuring out and leaning into. And what does it mean? And what does it bring each month for us as the moon moves around and touches into all the different relationships with Venus, with all the different planets? But this is Venus Friday, so that's my focus. That's our focus at Venus Alchemy. And so what is that mean when the moon is activating Venus in this trine, kind of flowing, right? There's a flow from air to air, kind of an energy. What does that mean for us, right? And I would be curious to see what you all think about that. Like, if you have thoughts around that, I'd love to see them, like, in the chat or in the comments, wherever you're watching this video, of like, how do you experience the moon interacting with Venus throughout the month, and what does it bring? So that's, I don't have a big answer about that, but there is that flow of that moon feminine energy with our divine feminine, both being in air signs on the 27th, right? When the moon moves from Capricorn into Aquarius, right? Which we see here in the the Archer constellation right here, moving into its next place. Okay, so then on Wednesday, we'll move one more day forward. And interesting, in Stellarium, it doesn't show Chiron. You cannot put Chiron you can't search for it and put it into Stellarium. Mars and Chiron are coming into a conjunction. So Chiron is right here around Mars on Wednesday. And Chiron is our other underworld planet, like Pluto. So we have the divine feminine and the divine masculine both being activated by connecting into our two underworld planets this week. So Mars, our planet of action, right? The divine masculine, the yang aspect of life, is coming into this conjunction with Chiron, that wounded healer. And so again, it's this opportunity of that healing the wounds around the masculine, right? Of which we see so prevalent, right? Where the masculine is not allowed to have its fullest expression, and the feminine is not allowed to have her fullest expression either. So I think there's a nice opportunity this week to kind of feel into both of those things, and what is the healing that needs to happen around the wounds of the masculine, wounds that have been inflicted upon us by the masculine, as well as the wounds that do that to the masculine as well. So Chiron's always like a healing opportunity so that we can clear blockages that block our masculine expression, our action taking, our standing in our masculine power in a really healthy, productive way that is beneficial to all. And then so that's on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we'll just advance one more day forward here. And we have Uranus and Mercury coming into their conjunction. I will zoom in and span, but sometimes when I get in close, the word where Uranus is will like disappear, which makes me a little crazy sometimes. But look, it's staying. So here we have Uranus and Mercury coming into their conjunction on Thursday, the 30th. So we're going to move it one more day forward so we can see that. And here they are, right? So now we have our mental mind, thinking, awareness, consciousness meeting our like universal consciousness awareness sign, right? So that's a lot of like nervous system kind of mind, mental kind of energy happening together. So that could be an interesting day as well. And just that conjunction, right? That awareness around that greater universal consciousness, which is what Uranus represents. Also, it's that change agent. It has that almost like a mercurial kind of energy of the change, revolution, unpredictable, right? Mercury, Gemini, this, you can see the similarities and the threads that run through all of this, but still, aligned here. And then we have the waning half moon in Pisces as well, right? On the same time that, because Venus and the sun are so close together, that the moon is in the square to Venus as well on this day, right? So next week, I'll just say, Venus and the sun are coming into their exact conjunction, and there's a lot going on around that. And I will talk about that next Venus Fridays. But here we have that, just to finish off, that half moon in Pisces. So that connection between the Gemini sun and the waning half moon, last quarter moon in Pisces, and that energy, that place between them, right? Of Pisces, the empathy, as we're coming into that wane, that last quarter of the moon cycle of, it's kind of that time for that inner reflection piece of the moon cycle. And with Pisces, it's like that inner reflection of our feelings and the empathy and compassion for others, but also for ourselves, and where we can connect into soul and that energy. And where are we wanting to move things through the end of this cycle, reflecting, thinking back on the cycle, and what is it we want to create and lean into for the next moon cycle to come, when the moon will meet with the sun at the new moon and we'll start that new moon cycle. So thanks for watching. That's what I have to share with you today, and blessings on your week with your divine feminine expressions and connection into all of the astrology this week.